I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and we are reaching even closer to the decisive events of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League qualification cycle, as the semi-final of the Qualification 3 is about to happen, where the reigning gold medalist of the Mind Sports Olympiad 2024, Krisna of Latvia, will be playing against the reigning vice champion of the world, Josef Tihon of Hungary. So that should be an incredibly high-level match. Both players have their peak rating above 800 on Board Game Arena, which everybody should achieve. Both very well-known players, so it should be quite the treat. The game is supposed to start in 1 minute. Just to walk you through the process real quick. This is the qualification bracket that you can see on the screen. Double elimination system. We've covered this many times. Krisna and Szigfrid, that's the screen name of Josef. They each have already one loss, so they can't afford another loss, so which means that whoever loses today's match is out of the tournament. Whoever survives, they will continue on to the next round. They will be playing the consolidated finals against Zita Traps of Japan. And then if they win that, then they get to qualify for the main stage of the Champions League. That's how it works. You can see the previous history also here as well. So Krisna started strong by defeating, albeit narrowly, the Brazilian player with the screen name Besson. Then defeating their Argentinian counterpart in round 2, but then they fell prey to the new Thai rising star with the screen name Pakshe, whereas Szigfrid also had, first of all, a very strong start, predictably winning without any losses against Locoello of Spain and Pablo of Argentina. But they lost to Zita Drap of Japan in the upper semifinals, and that's how they ended up here. So the game should be starting right now. As usual, it's a best of 3, so we'll be witnessing at least 2 games of Carcassonne, if not 3. Both players are known for taking their time, especially the Hungarian player, so there should be plenty of time to discuss those games quite in depth. This is, of course, a spontaneous stream, as the game was just recently scheduled. But I see that a couple of you all are here. Hi, Krisna. Thanks for delaying the match a few minutes. Hi, Kaika. Do let me know in the chat who you're rooting for. I mean, it might be obvious to you who I'm rooting for, so it's going to be one of those streams which are not impartial at all. Alrighty, let's see if they started yet. And they have. Both players experiencing a bit of a downward slope for their rating. Currently in the upper 600s. Not that it matters for this game at all. So, the Hungarian with his traditional patriotic green meeples will be playing against the Latvian and his traditional patriotic red meeples. The Hungarian has gotten the starting player advantage, starting with 4 points for the city over here. Now, Reds is starting a new city, and we can see a bunch of cities already commenced. So this is one of the things that Krisna does. Instead of closing his city at the bottom, he would start a new one, and then a new... Yeah, look at that. Like, how many players... This move, actually, I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, but, like, how many players would have just placed the city cap over here and close the city just to get this points and get out of harm's way? Honestly, I would have considered that as well. But at the start of the game, you could really delay the completion of the cities and just simply try to optimize all your tiles. And the point of this move, the point of going over here and opening yet a third city, was twofold. It was, of course, first of all, following the principle of 2 cities, making sure that you can still use something like an extender tile to extend so that you can use that tile efficiently. But also, it opened an additional square for pressuring this road, and also it opened an additional square for potentially pressuring against that city. Now, red didn't really get the tiles to do that. In fact, it's green who drew this wonderful splitter tile and is using it to try to get a couple of triple city tiles or Doritos to connect to the city, possibly overrun it for like 18 or 20 points. But red will have plenty of time to interfere in many possible ways, either blocking one of those squares, but most likely simply reinvading this city later on. Currently, he's having himself a Dorito tile, and it's a bit of a dilemma. So we see that at the top, Krisna here went like this and tried to break green's road a little bit. And we could either leave this alone, but he decides to react immediately. I'm not sure how I feel about this move. It does seem that, you know, we're using a valuable Dorito tile just for defense, especially when we need the Doritos for this city connection. But the upside of this move is that this road is now much safer. There are now 4 tiles that fit into that square, and had this tile not been here, red could have gone over here like this with a straight line. Maybe then restricting this road in such a way that only 1 tile would fit there. Szigfrid now with a curve. The move that I would be thinking of was actually occupying this new road with the idea of really capitalizing on that T-shaped crossroads that we're waiting for here. There's still 4 of those remaining, so that's a 94% chance of meeple recovery. And even in that likely 6% event that we don't recover our meeple if we start a new road, well, we will be able to keep dumping road tiles on it to keep extending it and getting at least some value from it. But I think the issue that the Hungarians thinking about is how exactly to meeple it. So we could either, yeah, I'm actually a bit surprised about that move. So it just seems that we are simply discarding that tile, whereas that road at the top could be a bit underrated. So what I was thinking, maybe he was just going over here or over here. So the direction of the road, that was an issue. But remember that out of the top players, Szigfrid is by far the most conservative one when it comes to meeple placement, even though his meeple average, I checked, is only slightly lower than the majority of other elite players. So for example, now that's a very sneaky move from him. So where we can see that red, of course, not good at finishing his city, opening another one. I'm pretty sure you have gotten used to that. Here, of course, it's massively justified because we're trying to take advantage of this Dorito tile that green so generously left for us. And of course, with a couple of city caps, we'll get 4 points for this guy, 6 points for this guy at a minimum, and we'll be very happy. But that move over here is very nice by green. So of course, it doesn't give any point for green, but it first eliminates a monastery spot, and most importantly, it prepares a very nasty attack against the city. Because this square is now blocked, if green gets something like a Dorito tile, he'll go over here, extending red city, but making sure that the city is inseparable from this square over here, and thus this meeple is blocked. And also this move by Krisna is actually double-edged here a little bit. So on one hand, it's nice that we're slightly restricting the options for this square. On the other hand, it's not on the other hand, but one thing is also nice for it is that we're trying to put pressure on this square and maybe block this meeple in the future or make it time sensitive at the very least. But the downside is that if Szigfrid successfully draws a Dorito tile, which he doesn't, at least as of now, then if he goes over here, as previously described, then red will not have the chance to draw a splitter tile and still get bailed out of that situation. With only one out of the with only one splitter tile remaining in the deck out of the 2 splitter tiles available, this seems like less of a concern for red. Hi Andres, Merry Christmas to you too. So, we're trying to figure out where to place this crossroad tiles. I'm pretty sure that green has an idea. He really wants it over here, but this is not what's going to happen. Interesting move for Krisna here. So of course he uses it as a blocking tile. If you can't score, then at least you can block. Szigfrid gets a road, tries to abuse Red's meeple a little bit. This move is way annoying than you might think. Because as Krisna, how you actually get out of that situation? So here's what could happen. Your first instinct might be to just place this tile over here. But if you do that, Szigfrid could draw a triple city tile and go over here and then tie not one but two Red's meeple to this blocked square. And that would be quite the disaster. On the other hand, to get out of the situation, you could also go like this. So simply turning away from that blocked square, making sure that it doesn't block, but then this square becomes kind of vulnerable. We've just spent one of the road Doritos, which we're going to need here later. And also in the future, if Szigfrid gets the right combination of tiles, such as two straight lines, and if we don't draw a defense, then we could block, then we could lose two meeples like this for even fewer points. So he goes for the latter option. There was a third option. The third option was actually to ignore this completely and simply try to save these two cities with city caps. But then again, it requires quite a specific combination of city caps, and it is much more likely that Szigfrid would draw a Dorito tile that fit into the square before Red would draw the right combination of city caps. So Szigfrid here with a straight line, and I assume he's going to go over there. It's like a 40% blocking opportunity, even more. No, I thought it was more. I need to review those probabilities again, but it's somewhere between 40 and 50%. I think like around 45, and yeah, it's just extremely unpleasant to deal with. So and he doesn't really have any other road moves. Well, I guess he could over here, start a new one and score, but this shocks me. Like, well, I guess he knew that Krisna would draw a Dorito tile immediately, which he did, and that there was no point in blocking, so that looks like a completely genius move. But what I found quite interesting is that when Green had this curve earlier, then he chose not to meeple this road. But after Red drew one of the crossroads that fit into this square, so after this road became a little bit more dangerous, then Green decided, you know, it's a more dangerous road, now it's an interesting game, let's try and meeple it. I mean, of course, it's not a dangerous road or anything, there's still 3 tiles that fit into this square, that's like an 88% chance of meeple recovery, and even if you don't recover the meeple, there's some value. But I'm really surprised why Szigfrid didn't go over here, especially knowing his style, which emphasizes blocking and meeple management a little bit more than some other players. Yeah, so Krisna does get his meeple back, 10 points, 2 meeples back actually, 10 points extra on the scoreboard, now for a total 12-point advantage, 4 extra meeples, so this is looking really good for Red. Red in the meantime is also quite annoyingly built up threats against these 2 squares. For example, one thing that he could do is he could get a Dorito tile, go over here, and then make sure that even if Green successfully takes over the city, Green is not going to complete it. Because, well, I guess it technically wouldn't be blocked because this square is still fillable, and so is this, but it would just be so extremely unlikely that it wouldn't be even worth trying. But one thing that would be worth trying is for Szigfrid to probably defend this square, because the threat that has just been created by Red is really critical. If we leave the square alone, if Red gets like a straight line, he will of course block, Green will lose at least 1 meeple, in some scenario even 1 more. And even if we go over here, that's not a complete defense, and I think that's why Szigfrid is considering not doing it. It does significantly reduce the probabilities of blocking, so for example, there's still 4 straight lines remaining. And if we place over here, we get this 1 extra city point. We technically bring our city a bit closer to completion, and we also make sure that our opponent, Red, cannot fit one of the straight lines like this. Of course, curves still go over here, and triple crossroads still go there. But this looks like such an important city for the overall outcome of the game that reducing the probability of blocking even by a little bit sounds like a good idea. But if green chooses to be more efficient with his tiles and gamble a little bit and just go over here and finish his city, and then try to simply draw a saving tile like a Dorito or like a curve before red draws one of the blocking tile, well, this will also be understandable. Last move, we see that szigfrid meeple the 6-point monastery, which looks like a fantastic spot, but in order to make it... interesting move. Let's just address that in a second. So, in order to make those monasteries work, and to really threaten, winning the game ultimately, you would probably need a monastery cluster. And for that, you need 2 or 3 free meeples. And 2 of them he's not going to have. Again, some interesting fortune-telling abilities for szigfrid. So for some reason, he realized that going over here for indirect defense is not worth it. And it would not have been worth it because krisna drew a curve. And those 2 meeples are blocked. But at the very least, he started blocking this square, and this could accomplish something. First, it prevents red from drawing a splitter tile and separating his healthy meeple from this blocked meeple. Now, both of the meeples are very, very unhealthy. So these 3 guys are blocked. Of course, green has 1 more blocked meeple, and that's interesting also that I'm also shocked about this move that now, not red, but green is starting a new city, whilst he has already another city open. Normally, you want to do something like this closer to the start of the game, and when you have more meeples. When you have only 1 meeple in hand, it is extremely risky, but it does completely pay off. It pays off very, very well. So szigfrid here exhibiting quite a lot of what the Romanian Carcassonne brothers would call inspiration. It's when you make a move almost as if you know what the next tile is going to be. Sometimes in difficult situations you have to rely on that sort of fortune telling. Yeah, but the reason why this was risky, not because these 2 meeples were blocked or anything, but because it was possible to get some tiles, like this one for example, that would make green lose value. So green, of course, wants to draw this triple crossroads, but he wants to do so when he has meeples in hand to not only liberate these 2 meeples, but also to score the additional 3 points for this road. Kind of like what red did right now, but over here. But green, in the meantime, managed to complete his brilliant plan in this area here that I was going to address, but he did it so fast that we'll just have to look at the aftermath. So with this move over here, he kind of realized that it wasn't worth blocking this square, so he decided to, of course, first eliminate the splitter threat, as we talked about before. Now, no splitters are available anyway, as green draws the second one. And then the point of this move, the other point of this move, was actually trying to build up over here and block that square. So at the very least, this 1-point blocked red meeple does not share points with this 8-point green meeple. And now actually green's meeple situation doesn't look so bad. There's still 2 tiles available for him to free up his roads. That's like 75%. This guy's blocked, but it already has 8 points on it and 2 squares for expansion, so that's quite a lot. So I think for szigfrid to win, what would be enough? I guess just recovering these roads soon enough so that he can benefit from his meeples from scoring. So I can see that 4 monasteries are still remaining once red drew a 6th monastery for his own. And what could happen here? Maybe green gets a monastery here, a road here to get his monastery free and get 9 points. Then he could build this monastery around and also expand his road and so on. But these are just dreams, as Krisna gets yet another crossroad tile, scores 2 points, and of course reduces the probability of these 2 meeples ever being recovered by, well, to 50%. It's now a coin flip. So not a great situation for green. So much so that he even chooses not to meeple his monastery. And here I actually understand him, because these 2 points did a bit of an additional damage in the sense that they have set up an attacking platform against this green meeple. So green chooses not to spend his last meeple in case, for example, imagine that red draws a curve and partially restricts this meeple. And then green draws the last vanilla city cap. And then green would not be able to use the vanilla city cap anywhere. I guess he would still go over here, but because he wouldn't have meeples, he wouldn't be able to capitalize on those 4 points. Moreover, after this tile has been drawn, then green can expect an even lower probability of recovering his meeple over here, or at least a longer waiting time for the tile that fits there to recover his meeples. Then the green meeples become even more precious. Krisna, in the meantime, has an abundance of meeples, and for him it's no problem to start yet another city, making his previous city vulnerable. It is 1 tile away from being severely restricted. For example, a curve or any city plus field tile, or a monastery for that matter, would make it so that only 1 tile would fit into the square, because there's only 1 of these guys remaining. Szigfrid, however, gets not a blocking tile now, but he gets a good tile nonetheless, the barbed wire city cap. So what can we do with that? I think the main move that he's debating are 3 moves. First, we could just take these 3 points. It's the move that scores a lot, still keeps the city cap open, kind of trying to be efficient with his tiles when he's still behind. There's some downsides that it's actually not that high scoring, and it leaves the road behind. It leaves a chance for his opponent to score another 3-point road. Then there's this move, which he actually made. That's sort of the more common move. You could debate whether it's worth meepling that 1-point road, because there are only 4 crossroads remaining, and 1 he needs already over here. He decided that subjecting another meeple to a potential block through this route and being committed to another crossroad is not quite what our Hungarian fans may want today. Hi Wise Maze, hi Ian. Merry Christmas to y'all too. There was also a third option, which I'm pretty sure he considered. This was just taking the 2 points for the city cap, turning it like here, and then hoping for 1 of the 4 remaining Doritos to get an 8-point city. So that would be, of course, very efficient scoring-wise, but that would require quite a long waiting time. Not something that you want to do with 1 move. In the meantime, Krisna defends his uppermost city with the straight line tile, but his bottom city is subject to attack. That's a nice find from Szigfrid. So this meeple over here is not all but blocked. There are no tiles that's left to split this 8-point city from this other unseemly construction. Oh, and actually there's no chance of finishing it all together. So I love those kind of blocks where for each of these squares, there are still tiles that can fill those squares, but there isn't any combination of tiles that would fill all of them. That's because if you draw the triple city tile that fits over there, then, and if you draw a dagger tile that fits over there, then of course you are left here with a road sticking into a city, sticking into a field, and that's a combination that just doesn't occur. Reds uses his abundance of meeple to start a new farm, typically what you want to do with a splitter, slightly obstruct this road, slightly bother this monastery. Szigfrid, of course, tries to clean off the city cap, start a potentially 8-point city. But the bad news for him is that when he completes the city, if that even happens, because krisna has an annoying move that he could make, let's see if he tries to do that. But let's say if he finishes the city, then it will be possible for krisna to block this monastery in one move. Or, if green completes the monastery first, then this will open a attacking platform on this city, which is not a huge deal, but the number of available city caps is slowly dwindling, and that could, at the very least, delay green's meeple from being completed. No, it would delay the feature from being completed. It would delay the meeple from being recovered. E aí, Victor, Feliz Natal a você também. Alrighty, so green in the meantime flexes with another shielded tile into his blocked city, worth already 10 points, not possible to be invaded. And now meeple-wise, actually, the situation is doing really not that bad, because with this move over here, krisna could have gone over here and started to try a blocking attack against this square. So that would actually been pretty interesting. If he were to get this plus a Dorito, then this square would make sure that this green meeple and this green meeple are both trapped. But Reds decided against this for 3 reasons. First of all, he could get his own square blocked here, and he actually needs this connection simply to add 4 points and then some to his city. So this is already something valuable enough. Second, there are actually not many Dorito tiles available, so if he were to go over here, it would most likely result into the block of just 1 meeple, but maybe even 0 meeples. An interesting and courageous move. No, before that. The third reason was that red is ahead, and also red thus thinks that he's more likely to win the game if nothing special happens, and he decides to not increase the variance, basically saying that he can afford a completion of an 8-point city from green. In the meantime, green just completes a 4-point city, but it adds some field points for krisna. Krisna drops a monastery next to the city cap to create a blocking platform. Green completes his monastery, gets 9 points on the scoreboard, and for the first time, he's ahead in the game. And now a super interesting tile for krisna. He does finish his city, but there were a couple of other options. He actually needs the same tile over here and over here as well. Szigfrid with finally the crossroad tiles, and this is something that could and probably will turn the game around. Look at how many road points will be added to the Hungarian. So I wonder what he's thinking about. Maybe he's just like looking at this tile and rejoicing. Finally I got this. So instead of, that has like a bit of a psychological effect. Instead just making the obvious move, you know, placing it in the square where you need this tile in like a fraction of a second, in order not to convey any excitement, he just wants to show krisna, look at what I drew, look how wonderful this tile is. And then red just has to wait before seeing these 12 points added to green scoreboard. Also 2 meeples are about to be recovered. But what red has been doing, he was putting his temporary meeple majority to good use, as we can finally see the roads being completed and the 12 points being added in 3 batches to the scoreboard of green. Red managed to use his meeple to build up some nice monasteries, whereas whilst Szigfrid had a meeple minority, he was actually unable to meeple this one. So instead of getting 18 points for the same type of building that he was doing, for all the same moves, he got only 9. So that's what temporary meeple disadvantage can do to you. Second, krisna got the stronghold on the field, and now he's able to protect that field as well. I wonder if he's going to drop another farmer, actually. That would be pretty interesting. So he chose not to invade the city, but instead try to block that city, because this happens to be the last starting tile. So if red goes over here, takes a tile over here, then there will be nothing that goes over here. And then what red could do afterwards is maybe try to hold on to the field with a single meeple majority. So the plan is, we do this, we finish the city somehow. Let's say our opponent goes, so what could green do? Our opponent goes here for 6 points, and then threatens connection to the field. Then we have one more platform where we can drop a farmer. You connect, I connect, and red still has a majority of 2 versus 1 on the field, and then the field has no obvious invasion point. So this is something that could happen. But one thing that I'm looking at, if I'm szigfrid here, it's a strategic idea that I'm looking at long term, and that's the number of dagger tiles available. Well, he goes for the farm straight away. I'm pretty sure we're going to see I'm not sure actually, maybe we're going to see an equalization from szigfrid, because obviously, so this idea that he used the upper platform, then red could use this platform. Red would be dropping his last meeple, and that could be a bit iffy. So let's see if he actually does this. But strategically, that's exactly what red wanted to do. That will be his last meeple, but there's still city caps to recover this guy, and maybe you don't need more than 1 meeple to still cling to the lead in this game. Even though he's behind on the scoreboard, he has these lovely monasteries, and he chooses to continue the monasteries instead. Can't blame him for that. Yeah, because this was actually quite a vulnerable spot here. And this is a move that gives him 2 immediate points, 1 per each monastery. But the risk that it runs is that first green would go over here with a curve, for example. And then green would also go here, which he does immediately. So he even sacrifices 3 points and possibly then some, instead of taking this 3-point road. Yeah, so look at this. Instead of taking this 3-point road and opening a blocking opportunity against this square, which belongs to 2 of red's monasteries, he sees the geometry of the field and wants to grab hold of it. So now that he has the meeple majority, the plan is to invade here, and violently take away these 9 or even 12. No, these are 12 points or even 15 points from red. They will become 15 points if green draws a city cap tile that fits into the square, and if he completes the city. But let me just double check if this is possible, because no starting tiles are available, no barbed wire tiles are available either, but there is 1 of each dagger tile. Of course, the left-handed dagger still goes here, so red will probably want to eliminate that possibility at some point, but he doesn't get a tile with which he can do anything really. I guess just adding to his city would make some sense. And also adding the city points would potentially open a platform for reconnecting to the field. And given that red is about to lose access to the field, he would likely need to create such platforms. So let's say if you go over here. He does the same idea, but in even a slightly better way, actually, because now the plan is that if we draw the last Dorito tile with a road that goes over here, then we can drop the farmer on the outside of the curve and connect through a straight line, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's still 2 straight lines remaining. So that's not super likely, but that's an option that's nice to have. And if we don't need to do that, well, there's still a square where we could add a couple of city points. So I told you about this dagger over here, right? The left-handed dagger. But the right-handed dagger is also important because look at this square over here. It's a potential fields connection there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's still 1 curve remaining. So in case red really, really needs it, or in case green really, really needs it, they could place a curve here, drop a farmer, and then connect to the field through an unblockable connection point here through the last right-handed dagger. This, of course, is far-fetched and requires a specific tile sequence. But when you're behind on the field, then what you want to do is you either create good field connection opportunities for the future, or you create several different bad or unlikely field connection opportunities for the future. And then, depending on which tiles are remaining in the deck, when, let's say, there are like 3 or 4 tiles remaining, then you use whichever field connection opportunity is actually still feasible with the given run out of tiles. This move from red is completely inexplicable to me. I don't know what that's about. I know that the Latvian is an extremely creative player, but I wonder if he just out-created himself. So, he now drops a city cap into what's going to become szigfrid's field, instead of finishing his own city at the top and opening a blocking platform against green. What could that possibly be about? I would assume that this is either some sort of hallucination or some sort of brilliant plan which I'm not aware. So if the purpose is to block the square, then again, let's just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, there's still one curve remaining. So this guy can connect to this field. And even if this square were blocked, szigfrid still has this tile, which you're going to use now, and expand his field a bit like this and go over there. But I really wonder why Krisna did not want to just get a meeple back and 3 extra points. Or maybe the plan is to take 4 points for the city cap with something else. And then afterwards use this connection platform that such a city cap would create. But a downside of this move is that, remember that idea that I told you earlier with a connection from above through a straight line? This move actually kills off this idea. Because, well, let's say if you still do that, then this square just becomes so much easier to block, because there's now a blocking platform for the future. And I don't think I'm hallucinating. I'm pretty sure that red was the one placing the tile. Like, this move would make sense for green to do, perhaps. And, you know, I know I haven't streamed for a few days, and maybe there's something that I don't see, but if that is the case, then I just still don't see it. Chris is now thinking what to do with this horse tile. Several options. Scoring 4 points makes the most sense, because this could actually have some impact on the end scoreboard. And this is exactly what he does. It also makes it a bit harder to connect to this square, as there is still one straight line remaining, which szigfrid can't use. Now green gets a city cap tile, which will go over here, of course. He'll get lovely 8 points for the city and a meeple back. Although there are probably some other options. Yeah, with the 4 tiles remaining unseen to him, I'm not even sure if these points are best. So it has one downside, that it would actually open a platform for field connection like this through here. So let me just double check. Yeah, I know there's no Dorito with the road remaining, because the Dorito with the road was drawn just a couple of moves before by Krisna. Also, now that I think about this, 8 points for scoring, so that was really, really nice. And now the Latvian probably could actually just win without the field. Well, first of all, it's the last curve, so this guy won't be coming into the field anytime soon, or ever, at least through this square. As far as I remember, there's still one dagger tile that's left over here, and he would come into the field like this. But it's no concern to red, as his best move is still pretty obvious. He completes his monastery, which gives him 2 immediate points, and he drops a farmer for 6 points, and he immediately recovers a meeple that he can still use on his last turn. And I believe this should be enough for Krisna. Although szigfrid does get the dagger tile, which will allow him to go over here and conquer the field finally. So he would be unifying his little 6-point field with the bigger 12-point field, which is, of course, a +6 move. One of his 2 possibilities, he has another +6 option, albeit a lame one, the boring one. If you just go over here, you complete your city, drop a farmer, so you get +3 for the city, +3 for the farm, so that's also technically +6 for the same meeple investment, which is no meeple investment. But the thing that we need to check is the number of city caps remaining. Are there any city caps? Because if they are, then we have a chance of going over here, connecting to the field. This field will now be ours, and then we could use this city cap that red so generously donated to us to score 7 points. 4 for the city, 3 for the field. But because red draws the parallel city caps, this won't be possible. Yeah, so only one of the 2 remaining tiles was actually a city cap tile. Still, the best move was found by the Hungarian. And just now, no particular options really. 3-point road, 4-point road. Yeah, 4-point road over here is the best that I can see. No unoccupied fields, as red managed to seal the deal with this farmer first. And to be honest, I haven't precisely counted the points. It's not obvious to me who's winning. I think it's Krisna, but not by a lot. Definitely less than 10 points after this last road has been meepled. szigfrid does have the slightly larger ruin. Both players exchange very quickly GG messages in the chats before the points are even counted. Krisna is suggesting a 2-minute break before the next game, which is great, because this gives us more time to get some hot beverages. Oh, look at that! It says that szigfrid actually wins after all. So, very interesting. So it turns out the penultimate move didn't even matter that much. So what did Krisna need in order to win? Yeah, I think so. After this move, in order to win, the Latvian would need this here dagger, so that this guy doesn't connect into the field. So it was a very particular tile draw. He was only winning... I don't even... Let me think about this. It wasn't even a 1 in 3 chance. It was actually 1 in 6 chance for Krisna to win. Because had szigfrid drawn the double parallel caps, his penultimate tile, he would have gotten the 6 extra points anyway. Because he would go over here and like this. Wait. Where was that city? There was a city somewhere. Yeah, of this guy over here. Remember there was a green guy, right? So green would have taken the parallel city caps, gotten over there, and dropped a farmer like this on his penultimate move. And that would have been the same +6 move. If he draws a straight line, he gets the same sort of stuff. And so the game would have ended the same. So in order to win the game, it was only 1 in 6 chance. Krisna would only be winning. Oh no, it was actually 1 in 3 chance, yeah. So Krisna would only be winning if szigfrid were to draw a straight line immediately. Because then szigfrid, of course, would be able to go over here for the road points. But he would not have been able Nope, it's still 1 and 6. It's still 1 and 6. Yeah, because here's the thing. Like Szigfrid would if Szigfrid were to get this tile, he would score. Or where was this tile? Yeah, this one over here. He would still score all the same points, just in reverse order. So the specific tile draw that needed to happen was Szigfrid going over here first. Then Krisna would draw the dagger tile to make the same move that he made over here. And then Szigfrid would get the parallel city cap, but on the last move, and he would be able to only complete the city, but without dropping a farmer, because his meeple would already been occupied there. And then it would have been a tie on the board, which would be a loss to Szigfrid because Szigfrid started the game, and that's the tiebreaker. Yeah, so a very unlikely series of events, which meant that towards the end of the game, Szigfrid did have field control, and his farmer over here paid off brilliantly. So remember what I was talking about the geometrical idea of when there's a main field and there are two connection platforms. Normally, it is good for whichever side has the farmer first, because it allows, to green to go here and red to go here. But red decided to go a different route, to forget about the field, and instead he just kind of went for monastery building and stuff like this. Wasn't quite enough, as Szigfrid recognized the field geometry and got right in there. A very interesting game, and one that you have to commend the Hungarian player for, as it was quite the comeback, to the chagrin of my teammates and all his fans, including myself. But now we're having ourselves a new game. In order to keep his tournament hopes alive, the Latvian really needs to win this one. So far it's looking okay, even though Krisna's down 1 point on the scoreboard. Red does have quite a lot of construction projects going on. These cities look very dangerous, but they aren't. Especially after this move. This defense really works like a charm, so the main idea is that now it's impossible to block the square. It is only possible to reduce the chances of completion of that square to 75%, which is still a really good chance. And even that reduction is quite far-fetched. But a great move now from the Hungarian, starting a new city at the bottom, and also making sure that red now needs city plus road tiles in 3 different spots. This shouldn't be a problem this early in the game, as there's still plenty of those tiles remaining. Later in the game, this move would have been a bit more painful. Krisna now should probably go over here. And meeple city cap, that would be a nice way to indirectly complete his city. Start a new one, of course. What else are you going to do as the Latvian player? And then we could maybe complete the city using some different triple cities and Doritos, so that would have access to all kinds of things. We could extract value of all kinds of tiles, and red does find this move. Szigfrid with an extender tile. Presumably going to continue his plan at the bottom, continuing his city, also now exposing the square from attack. Exposing the square to an attack from above. Krisna, with a curvy tile, of course, defends, at the same time creating the platform for attacking green city, but green now get a city cap. Knowing them, they'll get out of the way. This also happens to be probably the best move in this situation, unless you want to get creative. So there's something that the 2016 world champion Vladimir Kovalev would like to do, that would be going over here with the city cap and dropping a farmer. At the same time also restricting red city and trying to go for a big farm. But I've noticed that this tactic is just not that often used. Even Vladimir himself actually does not use this tactic as often as he said he does. The reason for that is that a regular city cap is so good that they're often other things to do, but apparently Szigfrid here is best friends with Vladimir, as he does drop the farmer just like this. It is a very strong move, I just didn't expect it. And it's also a bit contrary to Szigfrid's kind of more conservative style. So the point is, of course, we restrict this guy. The farm is already really good. There's a city on it. There's another potential city on it. And there are 2 more potential cities on it. So in case Red is successful in completing both of his cities, we as Green are getting plenty of insurance. So we kind of get our 12-point field. And look at what Red's now doing. Red's cleaning off a city cap, because the other threat of this move was that Green would draw a city cap, or even worse, a city cap with a road, something like the barbed wire tile. And this would expose this square because it could be attacked from the left. But now that Red cleans off this city cap, he's of course forced to spend yet 1 more meeple. As usual, like I told you, my saying that krisna would likes to open 4 or even 5 cities, that wasn't a hyperbole. 5 cities open right at this moment for the Latvian player. Let's see if we can get up to 6. Well, not now, because that would be bad. As Szigfrid gets this tile, which actually a very good move. Although normally I don't like spending city tiles on stuff like this, it just accomplishes so much spatially. First of all, the threat of blocking the square with a straight line or a curve, which is why krisna has to go here and recover his meeple. I hope he does this, although it's super tempting to just go over here and open a 6th city and trying to be super greedy and go for the content. The second idea, of course, is that it exposes this square a little bit, and you see he now capitalizes on it immediately. He's actually now starting to attack it a little bit. Now krisna, of course, immediately gets a tile to defend, or even probably just going here straight up is okay. The city would still be somewhat vulnerable, but we still have to do it. And luckily for us, the Hungarian actually has quite an abysmal tile. So we're gonna talk about this a little bit later. But yeah, so this was a very strong move, because it was setting up exactly the kind of stuff like this, or you know, a block, which just doesn't happen. But the third reason why it's such a strong move is a spatial reason. This farmer will be worth quite a lot of points, and it very nicely eliminates field attacking opportunities from the right, kind of building barricade. This is something that big city tiles are good at, typically cow and horse tiles, but in some situations you can do that with a Dorito, and this is exactly what the Hungarian player does. Now he continues his city, not that he wanted to. The only reason that he did, and why I called this tile abysmal, particularly for this situation, is that there are only 2 legal moves, and both included extending his cities in a way that make them harder to complete. He does get the 2 immediate city points, so there's something, but definitely not the tile that he or Hungarian fans were dreaming of. Krish, with the first monastery of the game, plenty of good spots for it, all imperfect. The one that jumps out is here, controlling this city of green and supporting this city of red. Slight downside that this square would be vulnerable and subject to a block, and that's why red goes for another option. So this is the safest option and the one that also controls green city, just the one with fewer immediate points. The third option was going over here, but then the same issue that we're having about this square being shared by the city and the monastery, and a bit too sensitive. At the start of the game it would have been great, but at this point several city plus road tiles have gone out, such as these 3 Dorito with the road tiles. Then the blocking chances of green against red cities are slightly greater. And this is exactly what the Hungarian is pursuing here. A very nice, efficient, double-purpose move, starting a 4-point road, but of course, most importantly, restricting the square over here. There are now only 2 tiles that fit there. I guess there's more. There are 5 tiles that fit there, but there are only 2 tiles that you really want there. And once that you get them, there's still going to be an opportunity, well, one chance for szigfrid to use a connection platform against the city, even though that's not super likely. But the greater damage that this move has inflicted on red is that it has made this city really inflexible. In fact, it has all but frozen it. Because if, as red, we complete the city over here, well, then they immediately expose a blocking platform against this square, and really we don't want this square to be blocked. So ideally, we want to first draw a tile that fits here, and only then draw a city cap that completes the city. But krisna draws something else, and he cannot complain about his draws as he gets to complete his city at the bottom. And also Meeple a nice road as well. Some chances to get a curve and a road end tile. Then the road will be 6 points, plus an extra monastery point. He'll get a Meeple back, so that's some nice aggressive scoring. Green, in the meantime, has his own construction projects. The city at the top, which I said he was forced to ruin a little bit with this tile, is actually looking quite nicely. Only 2 tiles away from completion, and this little guy on the left is supporting it, so very difficult to invade. So probably what krisna needs to do is to start restricting the square. For example, if we now go over here, we create the same problem for green here as green has created for us. And also there's a similar issue that he needs to draw the Dorito tile before he draws a city cap. Because, for example, szigfrid now cannot go with the city cap over here, because if he does, then we're going to get something like a curve, go over here and block that square permanently. So green will need to first fill this square and then fill the square above. With this tile, green can probably just do the normal move, finish his city, start a new one, get 4 points on the scoreboard, and the psychologically important temporary scoreboard lead. Hi, Sparkled Horsey, Merry Christmas to you too. Krisna gets a curve again and adds 2 points, 1 for the road, 1 for the monastery. szigfrid does go with a move that we expected. Now, only one real option for the Hungarian, that would be just taking those 2 points over here, and they also make this square a bit more vulnerable. So this was actually a great tile to draw for szigfrid, because it makes sure that if we do manage to restrict the square towards a quadruple road tile, well, that tile has already gone out. So drawing this tile essentially turns a 50% blocking threat into a 100% blocking threat. By which I mean that if we block, the meeple will be 100% blocked. Not that the chances of blocking are 100%. The chances of blocking are what they are. They are, of course, not that big, really. Just because there are still plenty of other crossroads, still plenty of other curves to fill the square. But, for example, as krisna, we can't really go over here now, because we need this tile for something else. And I think that the thing that we need this tile for is going... Really? There. This road is that important, really. I am surprised. I am massively surprised. And I don't like this. I don't like this from my teammate one bit. I think the move is to go over here, cover up our city, and drop a farmer, and sets up a nice field connection through a monastery. Which, by the way, could have now been continued. I mean, that would have been really powerful. because this square is a bit more vulnerable than one might think, and I really want to cover it up first. And I'll tell you why, because at some point we will draw a city cap with a road. And by the time we draw it, we better make sure that we have covered up our other end of the city. Because I really don't want to be filling in the shared square before I've taken care of my own squares here, if I'm red. This move, of course, is also understandable. It adds 2 points for the road. It protects the road from a block, you know, the kind of situation that I described before. It drops an empty city cap, but actually this city cap could benefit red. If red gets a city cap with a field, he can score 4 points, and that would create another attacking or blocking platform against this green city over here. So that's all nice. But we see now that there are some bigger fish to fry in the other part of the board. So I don't think anybody's going to be caring about these two cities anytime soon. Although actually, szigfrid might go over here just to start a new one and have threats in many places. The thing that matters is that green drew a Dorito tile before red. There is only one of those remaining, and this Dorito tile threatens the completion of that city, and Krisna did not draw a blocking tile, and even if he does, this square is not easy to get access to. So what szigfrid could be thinking? So the most aggressive move is going over here, which I actually kind of like. But I don't expect it from szigfrid. Although, again, I didn't expect for him the Vladimir Kovalov move either. Then he could go over here, adding a point to a city and make it very difficult to connect to it. But the downside is that it would make this city a bit easier to block. For example, with a straight line, it will be possible to restrict the number of tiles that fit into the square to 2. But is that really such a big problem, szigfrid is saying? The city's worth 9 points. So, 10 points rather. So I can afford it to be blocked. And very often it just doesn't get blocked. Let's say Krisna, of course, drew the best possible tile in the deck, which now restricts the chances of the city being completed to 50-50, but that's still pretty good. So you guarantee 10, and you have a chance of getting 25. That would be 22 for the city, and of course 3 extra for this farmer, which, as it seems right now, is not being invaded anytime soon, if ever. Green gets a city cap, finishes his 6-point city and a 2-point road to rub it in, and actually now this position looks pretty bad for the Latvian. So now we need to think about comeback routes. Option 1, we go here, we try to go for a long road. Upside, it's efficient. Downside, szigfrid could get a curve over here and connect to our road and not allow us to score. This was the other option. I actually really like it because it restricts, well, at least it plays against 2 squares. So we restrict this square next to this city. And also we set a blocking opportunity against this guy. And now, quite the dilemma for szigfrid. So that's a lovely dagger tile that he has. But he needs it in 3 places. First of all, of course, it would lovely fit here to complete his 3-point city, 4-point city, with a 6-point farmer as well. So that's just the highest immediate scoring move. Option 2 is taking these 4 points, cleaning off the city cap, and then hoping to finish the city with something else a little bit later. And option 3, the most defensive option, is to use neither of the cities, but just go over here and defend the 50-50 chance of completing the city. But Joseph decides that 50-50 is not good enough. So he'd rather sacrifice this meeple, and of course I believe that Krisna will complete the block and go over here. I'm surprised a bit that green doesn't drop a farmer, but it's certainly justifiable because it's only a 6-point field. But it would be a nice farmer, I think, and with 4 meeples that szigfrid has, he doesn't have too many places to use them. Also, the reason why I would have preferred a farmer here is green. Well, there are 2 reasons. Reason 1 is that this city could be, this farm could be connected to this farm. So imagine if Krisna goes over here, connect. Then as green, we would have already had a platform for reinvasion. And the other reason is that in some situations, for example, right now, as Krisna did, by blocking his city, which of course is the negative scenario for green, red also makes this field slightly wider, like with these road pointing up, there's just more potential for green squares and city cabs being dropped. So this field just has become slightly better. And of course, if you are to complete your city, well then, I guess probably you're winning anyway. And there would be and this 6-point field would turn into a 9-point field. Red does not drop a farmer, but for a different reason. Red just doesn't have enough meeple to do that kind of stuff. Red really needs to consolidate in a bunch of places before doing so. So now gets a good tile. But it's double-edged, of course. 2 points for the road and 3 city points immediately. Some chances to get a couple of Dorito tiles. But even though this is what you have to try as red, it is still quite risky, because if green draws the last Dorito with the road, green could go over here, creating another Dorito-shaped hole, which would be unfillable. So this meeple would be trapped, and this meeple would be trapped, and green would go on and hold on to his scoreboard lead and probably win the game. So when we make a move like this, we just need to hope that we draw the right tile soon. And it looks like it is exactly what's happening, but it's not obvious where we want to place that tile. For example, do we go over here and try to complete the city at the top? But then we need to take the downside of this square being restricted toward the 50-50, because look at these kinds of tiles. There's only one left-handed dagger remaining, because one is here above and one is here. In fact, there's one dagger of each kind remaining only. And if we add this cow tile over here, as I first figured would be the intuitive move, well then it's still possible to place a straight line here and restrict the square towards the Dorito tile. Now, essentially what Chris does here is just postponing that uncomfy decision. He's covering up the city from the other side, and he makes it actually a bit vulnerable from here. But this leaves multiple options for city completion in case he draws a triple city tiles plus a Dorito plus a city cap. That would be an option. And that would require 3 different types of city tiles, so that's what you want. You want to put yourself in a position where you can benefit from diverse tiles from the pool. But I guess the downside is that, well, the downside is that your opponent could take a straight line, go over here, and still block you. And speaking of that, Dorito with a road, the last one, was just drawn by szigfrid, used as a road tile to connect to Red's long road. As a consolation prize, Red has received 2 monastery points. And because this was the last Dorito, this actually reopened blocking opportunities for green. If Red were not to place this monastery defensively, then green would have taken this tile. And instead of taking the 4 points at the top, which he does now, he would have done something more damaging. He would have gotten over here and essentially blocked 2 meeples, because in order to complete this square, you would require a Dorito with a road, which is no longer existent. But now, after this defense move, Krisna successfully covered up his city from the top. And now, he's a favorite to complete that city and turn the game around. So 3 Doritos fit there, 88% chance, that's lovely. He won't be completing this guy because Szigfrid just drew the last dagger, so that would be a bit unfortunate, but because the city will be so many more points, and because we have so few tiles remaining until the end of the game, it is perfectly acceptable for Krisna to sacrifice this meeple for just 1 point. There's only one flaw in this plan. There's one tile in the deck that could severely harm red if green draws it, and that is the last remaining cow tile. If green gets the triple city with a field, he'll place it over here, generously adding 1 point to red, but making sure that this square is committed to a Dorito with a road, which is no longer existent. Of course, the chances are that Krisna will draw one of the 3 Doritos before Szigfrid draws the one and only cow tile. Not sure what the probabilities of that are. I will look this up after the stream, but 3 versus 1 with 20 tiles remaining. I guess it has to be between 65 and 70% maybe in favor of red, something like this. 65 maybe. Maybe like 68. But anyway, a good chance. When you're 22 points behind on the scoreboard, these are the chances that you want to be having. So, interesting developments up top as red drops a 6-point farmer, but Szigfrid didn't drop a farmer, and now we see the idea behind him withholding his farmer at first, because he's just simply able to go here and equalize. And now it is not in red's interest to connect all these fields, because, well, then this guy would lose all his points. Currently he's scoring 6, this guy is scoring 3, this guy is scoring 6. So this is +3 for Szigfrid on fields. If all these fields were to be unified, which we are en route towards, as green places this monastery over here, now is 1 tile away from unifying the fields, and of course this joint field will be not 12 but 15 points, because something interesting has just changed in this position, and red will be in the minority, so red won't be scoring anymore. So in red's interest, it will be either to separate these fields, or maybe to unify them but then later re-attack, maybe like through here, trying to get one more farmer to equalize. And because green also had an 8-point monastery, well, he has now, and he still has the 10-point ruin, it looks like red still has some catching up to do. He did manage to get one of the Doritos, but not a regular Dorito, but a Dorito with a shield for 2 extra points. So a 24-point city and a meeple back to him. That's about as good an outcome as you would have hoped for, but also, like, it really was difficult to build up the city in the safest possible way, and Krisna found these options. Look, so first of all, this flexible cover-up, then the defense with the monastery, and then the cover-up at the top. So this required really, really good city building skills in order to accomplish that. Szigfrid discards a city tile, which should be good news for Krisna, as it allows him to start some more projects, perhaps. So, what could we do? We could unify the field ourselves, and then commit to trying to attack with another farmer. There's still 1 road monastery remaining, which allows for all kinds of attacking opportunities. And maybe we should be thinking about a more flexible move. For example, going over here and meeple a 6-point farm like this. First of all, a 6-point farm at this stage of the game is not too shabby in its own right. But there is also a chance of getting a road monastery, and with that connecting to this field, and this field will be connected to this field, and all the fields will be equalized, which favors the play with the red meeples. And third, it would just prevent szigfrid from dropping a farmer here as well. And also there are some other negative scenarios available. Imagine if these fields get unified, and red doesn't manage to attack it and get a farmer in. Then what's going to happen is that green could draw a road monastery, and that would expand the overall field by adding, well, not two, but one cities to it, actually. It's only this little guy. Still 3 points or something, but yeah, at first I actually didn't realize that this city is so big that here and here, this is basically the same option. So a farmer here or a farmer here, they're scoring for the same city. That's pretty interesting. Anyway, monastery for red, still thinking what to do. I think the decision is whether we use it as a monastery tile or as a farming tile. And I think he goes for it, but he goes for the monastery. So maybe he's planning to go the fieldless route, with the idea that if we get the road monastery, we could place it over here and then complete it. And maybe his plan is to just simply try to keep the 12-point field of szigfrid small, and later block that square and simply preserve the 6 points that he has right now. Krisna with a great tile for scoring. As szigfrid gets 2 points, Krisna can follow suit with 2 points of his own, with an extra monastery point and a meeple back, and this is exactly what happens. So now red will have plenty of toys to play around. 3 meeples as toys for 12 tiles. szigfrid also has 3. And 11 fewer tiles on the scoreboard. Still, at the moment, a slight advantage for the Hungarian because he has more stuff on blocked features. First of all, 6-point monastery for red, 8 for green, so this is +2 for green. 10 points for a blocked city versus 5 points for a blocked city for red, that's +5, so that's already +7. So this means that Krisna is only +4, +5 because of this 1-point city here in the center. -1 because of this 6-point ruin just occupied by szigfrid, but he has a meeple. A meeple, of course, is more valuable than 1 point, but we didn't count in the field, and 12 points for szigfrid here, 6 for Krisna, so that's +6 for szigfrid, so +7 for szigfrid overall, only +3 after Krisna got 4 points on the right for this city and a meeple back. szigfrid with a fantastic tile now. This allows him to go over here and unify the fields, and then he is likely to preserve the farming majority there, because the field is very difficult to invade, but he has a different idea. I think szigfrid decides that Krisna will be able to reinvade the field, so instead he wants to complete a city, and there were still city caps, and there were still Doritos at the time of the move, but he draws neither. He draws a curve. Now I presume he'll go over here. He might not like the idea of Krisna potentially dropping a farmer like this, attacking through a road monastery, or dropping a farmer like this, attacking through a curve. In order to double check if that's even possible, we need to count the number of curves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Only one remaining? Really? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. So this makes this connection pretty safe, and I like how efficient here with the tile szigfrid is. So you could have done this in the previous move, which was my initial idea, but instead he added a point to his city while he still can, of course, still preserving the chance of completing it and running away with 10 extra points or even more. And then with the less valuable tile, he manages to accomplish this connection. Krisna with a monastery tile. I've said this multiple times in this game. So what do we do? 6 points again, or maybe going over here and dropping a farmer. And this is exactly what he does. Yeah, that certainly makes more sense. It's a 7-point move because we're adding a point to our monastery in the process, and we're threatening the connection with the road monastery that unifies all the fields, and at least we're making sure that if Szigfrid gets the road monastery, he can't go over here to snatch this extra city into his field. Oh, this should be interesting. A curve for Szigfrid, not just a curve, but the last curve in the game, which should be good news for the Hungarian because these ideas of connecting through above are less likely, if not impossible. Well, they're not impossible. There's 1 and 1 tile combination only that allows that, and this is a road monastery over here with the road to the left, farmer here, and then the last of the 6 daggers which is still remaining. So there's 1 right-handed dagger still. Szigfrid gets a 6-point farm off his own, far, far away. Krisna with some options. Now we need to ask, how desperate are we? I think maybe not so desperate, but we could, in theory, go here and starts a 5-point road, and maybe try to finish it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's really no crossroads remaining. So actually, we could just go all in, go over here, drop a farmer, and then intend to meeple this road with the next tile, which we hope is going to be a road monastery. Get the 6 points for the road and an instant meeple back, and also sneak in a farmer all the way into the main field. Of course, it's a 50-50 shot for who draws the monastery. Red might decide that it is not good enough, and maybe a waiting move, like 2 points over here, is in order. I also want to check on that city threat of green. 1, 2, 3, 4, so there is still 1 vanilla city cap remaining. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I think there's a Dorito tile remaining. So Krisna decides that it's time to attack the field because Szigfrid is likely to continue his city. It's quite difficult to stop him. And if we equalize the field, which is now worth 15 points, we can probably outrun the city. Also, Krisna just knew that Szigfrid would get the monastery, but that's a fantastic tile for the Hungarian. This is 6 extra points, 3 for the road and 3 for the field expansion. So I wonder if the Latvian is going to go over here now to re-attack this field and try to connect. It's a good tile for red in the sense that it is a Dorito. So green cannot complete his city now, because this is the last Dorito. So what do we do? Do we just take 1 point for our monastery, or do we drop our farmer on the right? It depends on the remaining tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait. No straight lines. Only 1 starting tile available, am I right? No crossroads. Really interested about some Krisna's decision here. So this invasion, is that like a 50-50 shot? It does appear to be the case. Ooh, and also, one thing that makes it quite hard for red is that I believe there's a blocking tile available. Because there is still 1 right-handed dagger. I'm pretty sure about that. So not only does red need to draw the last starting tile, he also needs to do so before Szigfrid draws the dagger that would free up his monastery and block this farmer. We will find out soon enough if he's successful. Yes, so Krisna did choose. So you see, I was asking, will Krisna drop a farmer or will Krisna add a point to his city? And he's saying, he managed to drop a farmer and add a point to his city, and he managed to connect at the top. But I don't think he'll manage to connect at the bottom. I'm not even sure if there's a tile available to even do that. Well, at least there was this city cap tile. But it has been used up. There are no Doritos, there are no curve, there are no monasteries. So this move will end up costing Krisna 4 points. But I wonder if that will make a difference. The reason why it's going to end up costing 5 points, actually, is because he was unable to meeple this 5-point road. Or maybe did red decide that invading one of the fields was enough? Let's see. I cannot count as quickly as these players and as some of my viewers. Oh, this one's going to be close. The field points are counted and... oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Krisna is not happy with himself, and I'm sad. Well, I mean, Szigfrid played really, really well. But yeah, we now see the issue. It was just a point sort of counting all the scenarios, because Krisna is saying +5 would have been enough. And this is referring to this road over here. So the idea is, now we kind of see what red should have done. And also Krisna is saying crucial mistakes in both endgames. Yeah, this is the case. This wasn't the easiest endgame, actually, because it really required a lot of precision. So the idea of this move was some kind of flexibility. It's kind of saying, like, either I'm going to draw a tile to invade here, or I'm going to draw a tile to invade here. And one of those is enough to win. But actually it turns out that it wasn't. That he needed to complete the invasion and also score. So the invasion at the top was paramount, and he did manage to complete it. So the move that would have won in the game is just leaving this guy alone. Is just making the same move but without a meeple. Then he would have gotten the tile, meepled the road, scored 5 points instead of 0, and instead of losing by 2 points, won by 3 points. It's a really tough loss for my teammate here. Very sad that we won't be seeing such a spectacular player in the main stage, as it is his second loss, and with that he will be eliminated from the tournament. Szigfrid will go on to play in the consolidated finals of the Qualification against, I believe, Japan's Ezitakuto Traps. And yeah, Szigfrid managed to outplay Krisna in those endgames. So this would be an interesting game to analyze and grow stronger for the next tournament. Undoubtedly that we will see Krisna in January try to defend his Mind Sports Olympiad title. And of course, at the World Team Carcassonne Online Championships. Yeah, so both players are doing the post-mortem analysis. And Krisna kind of immediately finding about this meeple over here, which, by the way, just shows you how complex endgame are, because at a different score, this would have been the correct move. Maybe like if Krisna had, let's say like if Krisna had like 5 more points or so, this would have been the correct move if he were in a position to afford to lose this 15-point field, or like something like this. If he would need to guarantee himself just 9 points somewhere, then the idea, like normal, the tactical idea of trying to invade different fields in different spots, if you need only one, it's really good, because it's really unlikely that your opponent is going to draw all those different tiles. But it just turned out that this wasn't the case in that particular game. Yeah, and also over a minute remaining for krisna, so maybe just possible to time manage it a little bit differently. I actually really like what szigfrid did with his time management. So we know that he has a reputation for taking his time. But the reason is, even though he's thinking about obvious moves, he's probably not thinking about those moves. He's just simply using the time control, because you get this 45 increment extra turn. He's just trying to plan ahead, to count the tiles, to count the points during those easy moves, so that during the hard moves, he has all that information, and then he can think about the actual strategy. Yes, so close indeed, Andres. Well, anyway, at least hopefully it was interesting for some of you. And certainly congratulations to szigfrid and all our Hungarian fans for a really well played match rather. So I've already shown you the brackets. Yeah, as Zitakuto Traps is the next opponent for szigfrid when we do not know. Again, in these last few days, most of our streams will be spontaneous. I will not be able to stream the next game, which is Samaki versus Portgard. So yeah, it's the only reason I was able to stream today, just because it was scheduled on such a short notice, and actually there was a window. And this one also, sadly, I will be away from any devices, but this one, Karl Verheiden of Belgium versus Otto Ikonen of Finland, which should be an absolute banger, which happens to be a rematch on the 28th of December during the European evening. I actually am going to stream that for sure, so hopefully some other matches are scheduled around that time, and we can watch them back to back. Yes, Wise Maze. So about the first game, there were some blocking opportunities available for krisna. I'm not sure if that would have worked, because he did get a lot of quick points by foregoing those blocking opportunities. But what did happen is that krisna did acknowledge there was something about that first endgame that he wasn't quite happy with. So he must have seen those ideas too, at least after the end of the game. Anyway, it was also so exciting that actually I was forgetting to update the scoreboard. I always put up the scoreboard, and then I just ended up not putting anything there. Wait, sorry, bit of a Freudian wishful thinking slip there. Yeah, it says szigfrid who has the 2 points. Now my teammate. So score updated, next stream discussed. That's pretty much all we need. Make sure to meeple the like button. That's important for the algorithm more than you might think if you're here for the first time. And if you want more competitive Carcassonne content like this, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell icon, because subscribing is not enough, because the algorithm will not show you the videos, and they're on a short notice because the matches are scheduled at a short notice. So you have this information now. Other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.